Hi everyone, thank you for being here. Today's session is called Motion Branding 2026, the rhythm that builds trust in 3 seconds. This isn't a talk about new tools, and it's not a tutorial on After Effects. It's a conversation about how brands communicate trust through time, structure, and motion. Because in this time where visuals are easy to generate, what audiences still respond to is intention. And intention is something you can feel within the first few seconds. So today, I want to show you how timing and structure turn motion into a brand language. One that feels calm, deliberate, and trustworthy. We'll do today's Q&A at the end of the live session. So feel free to save your questions and ask them all at once. I prepared a short intro video as a gift for you. You'll find the download link on the final slide. Make sure you grab it before you leave. Today, we're going to talk about something that will shape your design career over the next 5 years: motion branding. This isn't a trend. It's a core capability that's already changing the design industry. Brands no longer just need designs that look good. They need ways to communicate through motion, to hold attention, and to stay memorable. And if you're a designer, educator, digital creator, or freelancer, this is one of the most important areas to invest in next. If you decided to join today, you're probably carrying a few questions. Questions about motion, about AI, and about where your role fits in all of this. You might not have clear answers yet, but you can sense that something is changing. These are some of the questions I hear most often. If AI can animate faster than I can, what am I actually being hired for? What happens to my role when AI can produce design work this easily? Should I keep investing in After Effects skills, or is that no longer enough? Why does some motion feel premium, while others feel disposable? What makes my work different when everyone has access to the same tools? What should I be learning now so my work still matters in the future? Today isn't about answering all of these. It's about giving you a better way to think about them. AI didn't change the value of motion design. It changed where that value lives. Execution is becoming cheaper. Decision-making is becoming more important. Knowing how to animate is still useful. But it's no longer what makes you stand out. It's now your ability to decide what should move, when it should move, and why it should move at all. Before we go further, I want to acknowledge a few common beliefs I hear in the industry. Things like, if you know After Effects, you know motion design. Motion is just making things move. Or motion is too complex, or not really necessary. I don't think these ideas are wrong, they're just incomplete. Because motion isn't about tools, and it's not about complexity. It's about communication over time. And that's exactly what motion branding is. For a long time, motion design has been valued for execution. How smooth something moves. How complex the animation is. How well the tool is used. And execution still matters. But execution is no longer the bottleneck. What matters more now is intention. Intention is the decision behind the motion. Why this moves. Why it moves now. And what it's meant to communicate. When intention is clear, motion feels calm. When intention is missing, motion feels busy. Even if the execution is perfect. When people watch motion, they don't start by analyzing. They start by deciding how they feel. And that decision happens incredibly fast. Within the first few seconds, people decide whether something feels calm or chaotic, intentional or accidental. trustworthy or disposable. That's why the first 3 seconds matter. I'm going to show you only the first 3 seconds. Before we analyze anything, just notice how it feels. Just to be clear, I'm using an Apple product here, not because I'm attached to Apple as a brand. I'm using it because the work is professionally done, and the decisions are very clear. It fits this theory well. Within those first 3 seconds, nothing impressive happened yet. But you already feel something. In the first 3 seconds, people aren't judging your effects. They're judging clarity. They're asking, do I know where to look? Does this feel controlled? Can I trust what comes next? Those are design decisions, before people understand the content. And once those decisions are made, everything that follows is interpreted through that feeling. This is why first impressions in motion are so hard to undo. What people decide in those first 3 seconds has very little to do with style. It has everything to do with clarity. Trust isn't built by motion itself. It's built by clarity. When motion makes decisions clear, people feel guided. They know where to look. They know what matters. And they feel comfortable continuing. But when motion hides decisions, even with beautiful animation, people feel anxious. That's why some motion feels calm and premium, while others feel loud or disposable. Motion builds trust when it reduces uncertainty. When we talk about rhythm in motion, many people think about style. They think about fast cuts, dynamic movement, or energetic animation. But rhythm is not a look. And it's not a trend. Rhythm is how decisions unfold over time. It's when something appears, how long it stays, and what the audience is asked to notice or ignore. Two animations can look completely different, but share the same rhythm. And that rhythm is what makes them feel calm, intentional, and trustworthy. So if rhythm is not style, the next question is, how do we actually design it? This is the framework I use when I think about motion and brand trust. It's simple. But it's not superficial. Rhythm doesn't come first. Rhythm is the result. It emerges from two decisions. Timing, when things happen. Structure, what matters, and in what order. When timing and structure are clear, rhythm appears naturally. Once trust is affected by clarity, the next question becomes, when does that clarity appear? That's what timing does. Timing is not about speed. It's about sequencing. It's the decision to let one thing appear, and to let everything else wait. Good timing doesn't try to impress the audience. In motion, attention doesn't move automatically. It gives them time to understand. When timing is clear, attention moves naturally. When timing is rushed, attention has to work. And when attention has to work, trust starts to drop. If you look at the example clip between 3 and 9 seconds, you can see this clearly. Information is introduced only when the audience is ready for it. Too early, and it feels overwhelming. Too late, and it feels confusing. When timing is right, the audience doesn't feel rushed, they feel guided. Timing is the decision to wait, or to move, at the right moment.
Our intention was to make an iPhone that feels like a piece of the future.
If timing decides when clarity appears, structure decides what becomes clear. Structure is not layout. It's the set of decisions behind the layout. It answers questions like, what matters most? What can wait? And what should never compete for attention? When structure is clear, the audience doesn't have to guess. They know where to look, and they know what to ignore. When structure is unclear, motion feels busy. even if the timing is good. Structure makes your decisions visible, so the audience can follow them. Here's the same video, from 9 seconds to 18 seconds. Watch what's emphasized. And what never competes for attention. Nothing here is accidental. The calm comes from clear structure.
Powerful, yet so thin and light, it seems to disappear in your hands.
If you come from print or graphic design, none of this should feel unfamiliar. In print design, we design in space. We decide where things sit, what's dominant, and what the eye should notice first. Motion design uses the same thinking, but it happens in time. Instead of asking, where does this go? We ask, when does this appear? Instead of hierarchy in space, we design hierarchy over time. That's why timing and structure matter so much. The principles don't change. The medium does. This is an important moment to pause. Because none of this should feel unfamiliar. The principles you already know as designers haven't disappeared. Hierarchy still matters. Clarity still matters. Intent still matters. What changed is the medium. In print, we design how the eye moves through space. In motion, we design how attention moves through time. The thinking is the same. But the decisions now unfold sequentially, not all at once. That's why timing and structure become the new form of hierarchy. And that's why motion design isn't a new discipline. It's a continuation of the design thinking you already have. And when those principles are applied over time, something else begins to appear. So far, we've talked about timing, and we've talked about structure. Timing decides when information appears. Structure decides what matters, and in what order. When those two decisions are clear, rhythm doesn't need to be added. It emerges. And that's exactly what you're seeing in the Apple product commercial example. What changed wasn't the style. It wasn't the tools. It wasn't the effects. What changed were the decisions. What appears first? What waits? And what never competes for attention. When timing and structure work together, rhythm becomes the natural result. And that rhythm is why the motion feels calm, intentional, and trustworthy. What I want to leave you with is not a style to copy. It's a repeatable way of thinking. Before you animate anything, ask yourself a few simple questions. What should the audience notice first? What can wait? And what should never compete for attention? Once those decisions are clear, timing and structure become much easier. And when timing and structure support those decisions, rhythm appears naturally. That's how rhythm is designed, not added. Your value as a designer is shifting. From execution to decision-making. Tools are becoming faster. Judgment is becoming rarer. Clear thinking is becoming more valuable. And this is where designers still matter. Even in the age of AI. So the real question isn't what tool to learn next. It's how you train your judgment. Because tools change. Judgment compounds. One of the most common questions I hear today is this. AI can generate images, logos, even animation. So why should I still learn motion design? It's a very good question. AI is incredibly good at generating visuals quickly. But what it can't do is think, decide, or speak for a brand. AI can make things move. Designers decide how a brand moves. The real value of motion design isn't how many effects you know. It's whether you can use motion to express a brand's personality, emotion, and story. When you learn motion design this way, you're not just learning software. You're learning a brand communication language. AI is becoming a powerful creative partner. But the responsibility of defining how a brand moves, its rhythm, tone, and emotional weight, still belongs to us. In the future, the most valuable designers won't be the ones who use AI fastest. They'll be the ones who can make a brand move with intention and with soul. So before we go any further, I want to briefly share where this perspective comes from. My name is Jemmy Chien. My work sits at the intersection of brand design, motion, and creative education. For more than 20 years, motion has been part of that work. From early tools like Flash to After Effects today. Over the years, I've seen many students and designers get excited about effects. But what's often missing is rhythm, which, in print design, we would simply call hierarchy. So we end up with work that moves a lot, transitions a lot, and looks impressive, but has no clear story, no brand personality, and no strategy behind the motion. That's where my focus shifted. Back to first principles, how to think, how to decide, and how to design motion as a way brands communicate over time. Over time, this thinking evolved into a system for motion branding. Especially in the short-form video era, where people decide within the first 3 seconds. Because motion design, at its core, isn't about effects. It's about rhythm. And it's about helping brands speak clearly, intentionally, and with meaning, over time. And that's the lens I want to use for the rest of today. A few people have asked me how this way of thinking is structured beyond today's session. So, I want to briefly share the framework I'm building this work around. The course is called Motion Branding Design. At its core, it treats motion not as animation, but as a brand language. The goal isn't to teach more effects. The goal is to help designers think clearly about how brands move, speak, and build trust over time. The course framework. Layer 1: How motion communicates. The first layer focuses on how motion communicates. Here uses the terms 3 layers, which meant the core thinking system. This is where we shift from static design to design over time. Here, rhythm functions the same way hierarchy does in print, but in time. Timing becomes a way to guide attention. This is the layer where motion stops being decoration and starts becoming communication. Layer 2: How brands move. The second layer looks at motion from a brand perspective. Here, motion is no longer just movement. It becomes tone. It becomes personality. We focus on consistency, not just within one video, but across touchpoints. Especially in short-form motion, where the first 3 seconds shape perception. At this layer, motion becomes part of the identity system, not just a single animation. Layer 3: How designers think. The third layer focuses on the designer's role. This is where the shift happens, from tool user to decision maker. From execution to intention. From making individual assets to designing systems. This layer is about how designers stay relevant, even as tools and technology continue to change. Here using stages equals how learners grow through those layers over time. Stage 1 is about awareness. It's about shifting how you see motion. Instead of thinking in static frames, you start thinking in time. You learn to see rhythm as hierarchy over time. And timing as a way to control attention. At this stage, people usually say, "I finally understand why motion works." Stage 2: Skill building. Stage 2 focuses on skill building. This is where thinking turns into controllable motion. Design logic moves from design thinking into motion systems. Timing, structure, and rhythm are no longer accidental. Motion behavior becomes deliberate, not effect-driven. At this stage, people usually say, I can design motion intentionally, not randomly. Stage 3, Professional System. Stage 3 is where motion becomes a professional system. Here, we focus on how brands actually move. Motion is treated as a language, not an asset. Consistency matters. Psychology matters. Trust matters. Especially in short-form motion, where decisions are made within the first 3 seconds. At this stage, the shift is clear. I'm no longer just making videos. I'm designing a system. If there's one thing I hope you remember from today, it's this. Motion design isn't only about making things move. It's about deciding how meaning unfolds over time. So let's take a moment to reframe what actually changed recently. Motion is no longer about effects. Design is about decisions made over time. Those decisions shape what appears, what waits, and what never competes for attention. And when those decisions are clear, rhythm begins to emerge. That rhythm is what trust feels like as it unfolds over time. What changed today isn't the tools or the style. It's how we think about motion, as decisions unfolding over time. And rhythm is what those clear decisions feel like to the audience. Before we move into Q&A, I want to leave you with one simple question. In your next project, what should move first, and what should wait? Also, one last thing. I'm continuing to develop this work into an online course launching later this spring. If this way of thinking resonates with you, you're very welcome to follow my work or join the mailing list to stay connected. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd love that. For the Q&A, I want to frame this as a conversation. Questions about thinking, not just tools, are especially welcome. There's no single right answer. We're exploring how motion works, together. Before you leave, you'll find a QR code and link here to download the gift. Don't forget to get it. Thank you.